Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marshall here at Stony Lane. Did you know? Did you know that the US presidents had lots of different firsts, different things that they were known for being the first one to do or the first one to use, okay? So take a look. I'm going to show you 5 important things that presidents did for the very first time that helped to change the world. Ready? Here's the first one. Of course, the first one is number 1, George Washington. Washington was the president from 1789 to 1797, and he was the first president ever of the United States. Here's a painting that shows his inauguration. That's the day he became the president. And what's interesting is since he was the first guy, he was the first one, and no one really knew exactly what this president person was supposed to do or what you were supposed to call him. Like, they wanted to call him Your Majesty, Your Highness, all sorts of things. And he said, just call me Mr. President. And in addition to that, people weren't sure what his power was or anything like that. So he did a lot of things as the first president to really create the office of the president. Okay, number 2. The next bunch of presidents I'm going to show you were presidents that did something for the first time with technology. Okay, so this next president is number 6. He's John Quincy Adams. He was the president from 1825 to 1829. And this picture is pretty important because this was the first time anyone ever took a picture of a U.S. president. They didn't have to paint them, right? Because cameras were just being invented in the 1800s. In fact, the kind of camera that they probably used to take that very picture by a photographer named Philip Haas in 1843. So that was 14 years after John Quincy Adams stopped being president. He had his picture taken with a camera that looked like this. And a lot of the pictures that you'll see of that period, whether it's during the Civil War or other times during the 1800s, was taken with a camera that looks like this to create a picture called a daguerreotype. A daguerreotype. And this is a picture that's a daguerreotype, right? And you see that it's black and white, but it's also kind of fuzzy. That's called a daguerreotype. And you might say, that's not a very good picture, but for that time it was. It was the first time that anyone could ever take a picture of someone without having to paint it, right? It was an instant picture. All right, the next one. This is number 26. This is Theodore Roosevelt. He was the president from 1901 to 1909. He was the president that helped bring in the 20th century. And one of the things that Theodore Roosevelt did as the first guy to ever do it was to ride in a car, right? In fact, this is a model of the car that he rode in. He rode in that car in the early 1900s in Connecticut. In 1902, I believe, as he was making an important trip to give a speech. Okay, the next president that we're going to talk about also did something with travel and technology, and it was actually Theodore Roosevelt's cousin, Franklin Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt was the president from 1933 to 1945. He was the 32nd president of the U.S., and he was the first president to ever ride in an airplane as the president. Okay, this is a picture of the airplane that he rode in. It's called the Dixie Clipper, and it's not as fancy as the airplane that the president rides in now. Called the Dixie Clipper. He rode in this airplane in 1943, and he took a secret trip that no one was allowed to know about. He left from Florida, from the city called Miami, and he went down to South America, and he stopped in, actually above South America, in Trinidad, and then he stopped again in Brazil, and then he went all the way out to Africa. He made a stop in a place called Gambia, and then his final destination was in a country called Morocco, in a city called Casablanca. And he had a secret meeting there with Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of England, and they were trying to have a meeting to make plans for how to end World War II. Okay, so it was a pretty important trip, and it was something that was unheard of because to go that distance by ship would have taken him much, much longer, and it would have been impossible to have that meeting. So it's a good thing that he had that meeting, and so he was able to ride on the Dixie Clipper. And we have one more president we're going to look at today. And this is also about technology. And this is the president that came right after Franklin Roosevelt. He's the 33rd president, Harry S. Truman. He was president from 1945 to 1953. And the thing that Harry Truman was the first president to do, he was the first president to appear on TV. He was the first president to appear on TV because people didn't even have televisions up until that point. The year was 1947, and this is maybe not the exact day that he was his first time on TV, but he was the first president to go on television to talk to the American people. And in that speech in 1947, he was asking Americans to save their food and donate to people that were going hungry in Europe because of the war, because World War II still had a lasting impact on them, even though the war was over. Okay? So there you have it. 5 presidents that did important things for the very first time that we don't even think about anymore. And without them, who knows what our world would have been like, and all the different first things that they've done, and all the important things that they did after. Okay? All right. Did you know? Did you know that these presidents did such important things? Now you do. I'll see you next time.